Our next guest we watched grow up on TV playing the role of DJ Tanner on Full House. She has been the queen of Hallmark Christmas movies, and she might tell you that her biggest role was being a mom and being a wife. Candace Cameron Bure, what is up, Deej? How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I know that in this new movie that you have like executive title, so you're not only acting in this movie, but you have a bigger role behind the camera. What drew you to this story with Unsung Hero, and why such a big role with this particular film?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful story. It's about the Smallbone family, and you might know them from the band For King and Country or the singer Rebecca St. James, and between them, they have multiple Grammy Awards. And I've known them for quite some time, but I never knew their origin story. Family of 7 kids, and they immigrated from Australia to the U.S., and they lost absolutely everything. And this story is about family coming together, family sticking through the hard times, the resilience. It's about miracles, hope, and adventure. And it's such an incredible, inspiring story for so many people, no matter where you are in life. And when they said they wanted to share their family story and write this movie and put it up on the big screen, they came to my production company, and I was all in. I've been in family entertainment for, oh gosh, I'm going to age myself, but for over 40 years. That's what I've done. It's what I'll always continue to do, and I love bringing stories like this to life.
And it's coming to a theater near you. It's brought to you by Lionsgate. It's called Unsung Hero, and it stars our guest here, Candace Cameron Bure, in theaters this weekend. And if you want to find out more, go to unsunghero.movie. I found the role of Helen Smallbone, who is played, by the way, by Daisy Betts, to be the biggest role in the movie. And it kind of shows how motherhood can be the toughest role to play of the bunch.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that Helen is the unsung hero of the family. She was the glue that kept it together. And it's such a wonderful movie. Like, take your mom out for Mother's Day, take your wife, celebrate moms. It really is so uplifting. But, you know, as a guy, my husband watched this movie too, and you can so relate to David, the dad, who just absolutely couldn't catch a break for his family. And it's pretty heart-wrenching.
I wanted to spotlight something I noticed in the movie, and I think that you get it for the very first time in your entire career. You beat out Stamos in the hair department, because I don't know if those were extensions or if that was a wig, but solid work in the hair and dressing room for this movie. Great hair.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a wig. The movie's set in the 90s because it's, again, a true story. And so it's crazy to think that the 90s is a period piece, but it is. I feel like I'm not old enough for the 90s. I feel like the 90s were yesterday. But yeah, we've got some great clothes, great hair and makeup, great wigs. There's some rocker band wigs in this movie too, like from the band Striper back in the day. So we got some big rock hair also.
Did you take home any 90s vintage items from the set? Because they did a great job decorating up all the scenes for this movie.
Yeah, they really did. No, I didn't take anything from the set. I feel like because I lived in the 90s, I can't. I don't want anything from the 90s. I've been there, done that.
Unsung Hero, a faith-based film, which I appreciate, and I know you've been open about your relationship with God and being a Christian in Hollywood and how at times that can be difficult, but I'd like to get your opinion on something. I have somebody super close to me that works in healthcare and deals with kids with cancer constantly for the last 15 years. So she sees a lot of pain in children. Plus, she's lately had some of her own health struggles, and it wasn't long ago she was questioning God. If there is a God, why do I see all these sick kids? Why do I struggle with these migraine headaches that are debilitating to me? And as a friend of hers, I kind of sat there and I was speechless. I was just listening. You being so strong in your faith, has there been a time when you question God? And what do you say to people when they get to that point in their faith where they're just questioning why we would see all this bad stuff happen if he's real?
Yeah. Well, what I love is that God can handle all the tough questions. God wants us to ask him all the tough questions. He wants relationship with us. So there's no question that you can't talk to him about. And You know, from knowing the Bible, my understanding is that we live in a fallen world, and so it's not that God is creating or putting all these bad things on people, but there's sin in the world, and there's junk, and we're not robots. He doesn't program us to do this or do that. So the world that we live in is fallen, and yet he's here to rescue us. And that rescue may not look like what we see here on earth. That rescue is heavenly many of the time. So, and ultimately that's what it is. So God provides us a way to be with him, and he provides us a Savior in Jesus. And that's when we are free from all the sin, all of the heartbreak, heartache, cancer, everything. It's not going to be there when we're in the heavens. And I know that's probably hard for someone to grasp and might seem like a fairy tale or too good to be true, but as many times as I've read the Bible and continue to read the Bible every day, I do know it to be true.
In the movie Unsung Hero, of course, you do see where they find joy in hard times. Moving 7 people in a family all across the pond and around the world, from Australia to the United States, is definitely not an easy thing to do. And you get to see some joy in hard times when you see this movie this weekend in theaters, Unsung Hero. I know that your husband is a hero to a lot of people out there, especially hockey fans. He played, I believe, 13 seasons in the NHL. It is hockey playoff time. I'm wondering, how much hockey playoffs are you watching as a family? Is that something you guys do?
We absolutely do. The hockey's on nonstop at our house. It's either hockey or the Food Network. That's what my husband loves to watch, and my boys. But honestly, I've been on this press tour for the last 3 weeks. I don't even know who's in the playoffs.
Do you guys have a favorite team? I know your husband played for Montreal and Florida. Is there a team that he roots for more, or yourself? Who's your team?
Neither of us have a team. I think it's weird when you're in the sport, it becomes a little bit political. So at this point, you just want to watch good hockey, and you're rooting for your friends, too. You want them to succeed.
You know, when I was listening to you on an interview, you were talking about auditioning as a young kid at 5 years old. You and your brothers and sisters, it was a family affair. And you have 3 kids. Have you ever encouraged them to go into acting at all?
I didn't encourage them, but I was open to it. My boys never wanted to, but my daughter is an actress, and she started in her teen years. She's 25 now, and yeah, I would say she's pursuing her career in entertainment.
And what about the boys? Are they playing any hockey? Do they get out on the ice?
They did. They played hockey up until college and absolutely loved it. And now at this point, they get out every once in a while, but they actually don't have a rink near them. I think the closest rink is about an hour and a half.
Well, I'd be remiss if I don't ask you some Full House questions as you come on the show today.
Okay.
And so I always find it fascinating watching that show and knowing that little Michelle is played by 2 different people, the twins, of course, Mary-Kate and Ashley. How did they decide? This is interesting to me. Like, who's taking what scene? Was it who was in a better mood at the beginning of the day? Did they alternate them? What was the process, or was there a process on how they decided who was going to be in this scene?
Well, it wasn't a very scientific process, but there was one, and it was exactly that. It was whoever was in the better mood would be in the scene first, and then if they decided they weren't in a good mood, we'd try the other one. And then as they got older, it was more like kind of personality driven, because they were a little bit different, and then they would choose and assign, like, because once they had lines, they would sign like, okay, Mary-Kate's going to do this scene, or Ashley's going to do this scene.
And would you ever get confused? I know on TV, as we were watching it as fans, I couldn't tell the difference. But when you're on a set where you're like, oh, I know this is Mary-Kate, I know that's Ashley, like, you could tell it every time, or did they even fool you at times?
I could pretty much tell every time. I think when you're around any set of twins for that long, you just start to notice the little small differences.
That show had such great ratings, and you guys had great chemistry. I'm wondering, who did you look to on the set as like the best actor? Who was, when you knew that you were working a scene with this particular actor, they weren't going to flub their lines, they were going to be on point, and you had to step up your game. If you had to crown the best actor on the set, who would it be?
Oh, well, that's an easy one. Most professional, always knows your lines, always going to bring it every time, it would be Lori Loughlin.
She was on fire. She was the true actress of everything.
Always, yes.
And who, on the flip side of that, who was the person that you constantly had to get them to remember their lines? They might be disheveled here or there, or wasn't on point every time. Who's that?
Can we give a triple tie to all three of the guys?
Okay. So Mary Kate and Ashley were hitting their marks much better than Bob Saget and the rest of the boys.
Well, it was more because of the laughter. Like, the jokes wouldn't stop. So it was hard to get their attention because it was just joke after joke, which made it for a really fun set.
And I'd love to give Bob Saget some love because he's come on my show quite a few times back in the day, and every single time I got to give him credit. He never came on the show, maybe 12 times he came on, never promoted anything that he was doing. He was always promoting the thing with his sister, the scleroderma, or some kind of charity comedy event. He was a very giving man and funny man, and we really miss him. But I would like to hear, your thoughts on Bob now as we reflect. He's been gone, 4 years, 3.5, 4 years?
No, just over 2 years. But it was one of the hardest losses of my life. I think about him almost every day. Truly, everything that you said. He was such a giving, loving man, and so generous, and always thought of others before himself. And what a great legacy to live. I mean, really, if you're gonna be remembered, what a way. And
we talked about moms, in the movie Unsung Hero, where she plays such a big role in their family moving from Australia. On that set, there was no mom, 3 dads, really. Who would you say what was the mom? It had to be Bob, right? He played the mom and the dad role.
Yeah, well, that's what made the show interesting, is that it was 3 guys raising these girls, so they had to do the job of mom and dad, and then that's where Lori's and Becky came in, because she then got to be the female presence on the show.
And then I'd also like to talk about your brother for a moment. Of course, a big star himself, very successful show in Growing Pains. Was there ever a sibling rivalry between the two of you? Or maybe to this day where you sit around and say, hey, we had higher ratings than you. Our finale had more viewers than yours. Is there a little rivalry between the two of you? Because those shows, correct me if I'm wrong, they crossed paths a little bit. They were on at the same time during a short period of time.
Yeah, they crossed over, I think, for about 5 years. But honestly, no, there was no sibling rivalry. I know that may be disappointing, but once we finished our jobs, we just kind of came home and did our homework and cleaned our rooms and did all the normal things that kids did. And we never talked about ratings or work, actually, to like an extent that I think about now as an adult. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, we never talked about work, but we really didn't.
And then I'd like to ask you about your TikTok. I constantly am watching your TikToks. You're a fun follow. I highly recommend our listeners go follow our guest on social media. She's all over. But on your TikToks, you have a lot of fun. And I just read yesterday, TikTok could be banned. Have you heard about this? And what do you think if somebody all of a sudden deleted your TikTok because you have so much fun on there?
I'm okay with it. If it's for the safety of our country and the world, I'm totally fine with deleting TikTok. There's plenty of other social media outlets.
All right, and thank you for your time, Candace. I'm looking forward to seeing the movie this weekend. Lionsgate presents Unsung Hero, available in theaters coming up this weekend, April 26th. Tomorrow, it's officially in theaters, and you are the executive producer. What was the description, the job description of the executive producer? Because we see this title, and I'm always curious, like, what extra did you have to do? What did you have to do?
It's a lot of puzzle pieces. It's putting the movie together before we get to set. So there's a lot involved in the preparation for the movie, and that's what the executive producer helped with, along with all the post and finding distribution and all kinds of stuff.
Well, she worked very hard on this movie, so you better go see it. It's in theaters this weekend, Unsung Hero. Can't wait to watch the movie and hope to have you on the show down the road. And congratulations on that beautiful family of yours.
Thanks, Gentry.